When an angel comes to visit, the past is never past, at least while we're alive. Memories, while recognized and ephemeral, still have a very basic core of persistence. How does this past remain, and what kind of substance could there be that lives so completely outside time? What makes it so strong that it can ever survive the merciless climate of the well-trafficked brain? In what storm's eye does it reside? In the center of a maelstrom of the change and growth of cells. What are these indestructible grains that persist among the shifting sands of time, bare and alone? A memory returns from a taste of butterscotch, from which Grandma's olden days home then arises, and then related connections further become. Reminiscence stirs connections within the mind, each little germ of recollection ballooning into a wondrous and glorious revelation. How do such apparitions reappear, sink and swell, float and change, withering the acids of time's reflux? We know why, prions, but this essence pales compared to the sensation of life's enjoyments redux. Associative memory is the storyteller of those glorious and golden times which yet glow, those which ever and yet become all that we are. A park bench last Christmas reminded me of this tale of once upon a storied and magical time. was the near winter of '61. I was in 8th grade. Though living in Oak Park, I was contained within the flourishing parish of the grand 16-room St. Bernardine Catholic Grammar School and Church in Forest Park, Illinois, just across from the once world-famous Atomic Fireball factory. I had been instructed here in this holy place since the early to middle nuclear 50s. The wall clock hardly ever swept the time away, but for when I wrote. The school library was geared towards the low grades, and so I'd borrowed books from the town library. I sat in the back row so that none wouldn't know. As the interminable hours wore on and on, I wrote the germs of some of my later stories, dissolving the time away by roaming dreamlands. The disastrous 7th grade experiment of separating boys from girls was long over. What had the hand of fate newly brought before me? In the bright, sinuous form of Karen Nichols?
Whenever she spoke, I would put down my pen. At last, someone normal yet exciting, I thought.
An atomic fireball soon rolled across the floor. Her vision glimmered and twinkled. I caught her eye. She returned the look, giving an eye for an eye. Karen wasn't like the others. She seemed otherworldly even. A while later, Bad Frank Santoro, a reject remanded back here once again from another school, was carrying a big stack of books across the room toward a shelf when he pretended to slip or trip, sending the books scattering in all directions. Of course, there were laughs galore, all over the floor, and he was really a well-meaning, funny guy. But in a few days, he was gone to some reform school. So it went, but there are too many such tales to tell. My seat was in the back corner of the classroom, so I could peruse more meaningful offerings, and so I could sneak out the door now and again. Upon return, a kid would signal me back in. In the basement of the school, there was a lunchroom and an all-purpose room having a large stage and basketball hoops, a gym auditorium. On the weekend, and especially after church, it was a musical round and round roller rink. I was putting my skates on next to Karen Nichols, and we shyly said hi to each other again. She had asked me to skate during the ladies' choice the week before, and so we had whirled around the floor. She showed that there were several nail or screw heads sticking out on the inside of her skates, which was a constant problem with these ancient rolling shoes. I went to the counter and got her a smoother pair. She smiled and put them on and went out to the floor as I finished securing the wide black laces of my own pair left over from the 1800s. There were times when Cupid's thrown darts stuck in youthful hearts. Lady Karen chose my hand, and we glided and rolled, ever a watch of the four pillars, while our eyes met to look within. It was too noisy to talk. On Monday, I moved my coat to a hook near hers, taking my sweet time, until she bright-eyed arrived. I asked for her hand and held it, keeping it there while I put my other hand over hers, she doing the same with the one she had left. This girl had life. I wrote notes to be passed on to her, accounting through and across many rows, this one recounting the rolling feet with which our hearts had gone along. She read it and turned back and looked between all the student heads, her desk being way up and across, near the front. She scotch-taped, closed a reply already written, echoing the heightened joy of being smitten, of two skating as one in this new rink of life. Her name came up for the cleaning of erasers. And so after she went, I crept out the back door. If the sister had noticed my empty seat, then maybe it was that I had gone off to pee. Yet down the stairs I went, on through the bottom floor and out onto the front stoop of the 3 stone steps. There she was, my literary world come to life. Within the clouds of chalk dust and the big snowflakes, banging the erasers on the stone. The dust cleared, and she emerged like an angel, as one sprung up from the snow. I chanced to hug out there in the cold.
I'm so cold without you.
She then soft whispered, although no one was around.
I liked what you said in class about care and love, for I knew it was about me and told just for me.
What heavenly scheme brings you forward unto me?
As you can well see, I've become reality.
Back inside, a snowball crashed off the slanted panes, as Frank Santoro was probably mad, then glad. The showers gave us a cheery feeling, later dripping. Human nature was quite a funny thing, I wrote, it often being so predictable and primitive. If only we knew what demons haunted the soul, but otherwise, it's such a surprise not knowing. William Fox played his violin for the class. Not bad. Emil Hunt showed his rock collection. The class went Christmas caroling around the town one night, and there she was, singing right next to me. We all crowded from the cold, some closer than others. We sang all God's tunes under the moon of the Yule. Then came winter break, and many went far away. On vacation, she too. When we returned to class, it was 1961, rending the same upside down. Though apart, our love had grown, and we dared to hug a coat-room welcome back, right after all had left. She'd traded seats and was now but a row away, and so the loving notes flew much quicker this way. I heard stories of Christmas past, knew that we'd last. Frank Santoro was back. He was an okay guy, with much fun in him, but that didn't sit well with the clergy, who were as strict missionaries. When our nun was out of the classroom for a while, which for some reason was rather often enough, I found myself sitting at her desk, telling jokes. Frank soon arriving, sitting on the edge of it. We carried on about life and school and everything. 'Twas one of those spur-of-the-moment things working. Several days later, Frank took out some curtains and wrapped them around him along with an odd hat, and pretended to be the very old Monsignor, in a chair up front, handing out our report cards, as he was due to do, hardly looking at them, and telling us how well in class we were doing. Well, the Monsignor walked in right then and there. Good old Frank was never seen or heard from again. Me, I knew well the limits, and so I had managed to remain on the bright side of sin's good twin fun. In our geography book, someone found a figure of a naked woman within a large picture of the Amazon jungle and its tribal members. And so quite soon, everyone was on the same page. We didn't have geography class for a while, but then it resumed with part of that picture blacked out. Still, many could not help smile when we read all about the traversing of hills and valleys thereabouts. There were no art courses nor physical education, just the old playground, plus baseball and basketball. Tom Jameson, an excellent student, stayed home from school for 3 months, not even his mother knowing why, and ended up being run over by a freight train. One of our priests had just married our 6th grade nun, whom I had greatly admired way back then, they having run off together halfway through my 6th grade. Now Monsignor's gone to heaven and wasn't replaced. I went out into the empty hallway one day for yet another stroll, but meeting Karen out there. Then it just happened somehow. Our very first kiss, right next to a statue of the Virgin Mary.
Did Our Lady smile at us for but just a second?
Winter still held its wretched cold and icy grip. But I had begun walking Karen slowly home, sometimes with James Fitzgerald and Mary Fabrini, the other love couple. The fun now multiplied. Karen's mother eyed me at times from the window, through the slightly parted curtains of the parlor. I'd already known that boys were not welcome there. Parting wasn't easy, but that only made the minutes more precious. However, there was always skating. From then on, we parted ways a few houses away. After the bell ending the lunch recess had rung, we would always end up next to Jim and Mary, in a little nook of a small indentation next to the convent. So here we would bend the rules and then hurry in as the end of the long line began to disappear. We learned history, English, math, and religion, but not any biology, so this we had to remedy all on our own. Warmer weather had arrived on some lucky days, and when Jim and Mary would duck behind a tree, Karen would lift her eyebrows, and hugs and kisses became those years ago in the shade of a large oak.
Spring had now sprung, and I'd told her of Maple Park, just across the border in Oak Park, where we boys and some girls sometimes played touch football after school.
In the next section of the park, there was a bench, out to the side of the baseball diamond's right field, secluded by leaves and branches overhanging from maple trees planted 100 years ago. It was near to where I'd warmed up my pitching arm. My life was much freer than Karen's. Here we passed some longer times of warming up just after school. She's supposedly out rehearsing for a play. Spring fever and Mother Nature gave their blessings, that no one really knew to what lengths our friendship had gone to in mind, body, heart, spirit, and soul only made it all the more special and wondrous. If only her mother had known that she had crossed a busy street to get here, and was with a boy. We honor our parents. Sometimes we humor them. The baseball team was of kids from the neighborhood.